Hi everybody, it's Jenny here from Genuine Floristry Arts and Crafts, and today I'm going to show you the simplest and easiest way to make a wreath base for your seasonal wreaths. Once you get the bug, you are bitten and you won't stop making them. They are so much fun. This is my sort of selection of the wreaths that I've made. The great thing is you can make them any size. You can make them big, you can make them small, you can make them round, you can make them heart-shaped. You can use willow, you can use ivy, you can use birch. There's so many materials that you can use. So what I'm going to do as I teach the workshops, I see the pitfalls that many people fall into. So I'm just going to simplify it all, break it down slowly, and we're going to go step by step. Are you ready to get started? For the purpose of this tutorial, we will be using willow. Willow is what you will be receiving in your kits if you are following one of my instructional video tutorials. But if you are just using it from what you have foraged, etc., you can just follow the steps. Will be exactly the same. What you will need is some strong secateurs. They need to be sharp. I do not recommend just normal scissors because obviously it's quite difficult to get through the willow. You will need something to secure the circle shape. So you can either use real wire, you can use these little sort of plastic ties, or you can use your normal average zip ties, cable ties, whatever they're called. The most important thing is to make sure that your material is prepared. So if you've received a kit from me, you'll find that I do moisten it, so your willow will probably be flexible enough. You just need to start manipulating it and check to see the flexibility. If it's not flexible enough, you will need to either roll it in a towel and keep it rolled up so it can absorb moisture again, or you can actually submerge it in water, depending on how dry it is, between 24 and 48 hours. We're going to start to make our circle shape, but before doing so, all we simply need to do is manipulate the base of our willow whip and run our thumb along the base and simply curve it. So when we're going to make our circle, it's going to be easier to do so. You just run your finger along. If it's really thick at the end, you can chop a little bit off, or you simply just run your thumb to thumb and just run down. Let's try not to kink it. If you do, it's not a problem. You can still use it, but you just can't use any kinks. Sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? You just can't use any kinky willow whips in your first initial circle. That's really important because we want to start off with a perfect shape. We don't want to have to get it all funny angles right in the beginning. Do that to all your willow whips. I'll let you get on with that and then we'll get started. We are ready to make our initial circle, which is going to create the size and the diameter of our wreath. It's probably worth it at this stage to have a ruler or a tape measure handy. Right, I'm going to take my long length and I'm simply going to take it round and twist and make a circle like so. I've got an overlap slightly here, so I can bring it in or extend it. Pick up your ruler or your measuring tape and measure it. This one, I normally work in inches. It makes it easier for me. I'm going to make this one 12 inches. And all you simply do is you can use the table if you want to. Just bounce it down. Oops, this one has got a kink. Now this one is what I probably wanted to show you. It probably had a little, I can see it's dried out slightly, you can see there. So I'm just going to cut that off and I can use that one later. It's probably wasn't the best one to choose, but don't worry about it. You can choose another one. Right, so let's just choose another one. So simply again, just going to take it around and bend it slightly. Don't worry too much about the initial circle now, because we can mold it into shape as long as it doesn't have a kink. And then once you're happy with the size, you can either use a cable tower. In this instance, I'm going to just use a piece of my wire from my reel. Wire, should I say. And this is really important. Make sure that it's a really tight join, okay? So willow actually shrinks, so you don't want to lose your, you don't want your willow to unravel basically. And then what you can do is you don't have to go all the way down the stem, but you can just bind it down, okay, to a point where you feel comfortable, and then you can just snip it off and then just pop the wire back in itself so you don't catch your thumb and give yourself an injury. Okay, and then the tail, okay, just get your hand and you simply put it through, and then you just start the weaving process. Hand through, and that's it. And a lot of people freak out at this stage and say, oh, it's not very circular or anything. Don't worry, just keep manipulating it. As you're working through, you'll find that it will get stronger and stronger. Use the table if need be. Sometimes I've got the table here and I'll sort of push it on the table and I'll push it down, and it will work into a better shape as you go around. Just keep on working it. All right, so at each quarter turn, we're going to use another willow whip and we're going to bind it round. What I wanted to, before I go on, I just wanted to chat about, say for argument's sake, you don't have a long willow whip to start off with. You want to make a really big wreath, or you just don't have a suitable length. It's very, very simple. All you need to do is you need to just get your wire, should I say, your reel wire, and just bind them together. Because they are quite thin, it's probably worthwhile to wire it all the way down the length of the stem. That way, when you come to create your circle, it's a reasonably firm circle. You secure it in exactly the same way, either by some wire or you can use your zip tie. And that's that. So we're going to continue with my initial circle. I know a lot of people are really concerned about this here and this here. If you really want to, you can just secure it down at the end, but you don't have to, because you can actually just slip it in at a later point. But I know just people tend to freak out a little bit. One, always that their circle is not circular enough. Two, that they have this and that. And I always say to them, just trust the process. I promise you it will work. Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to start round the with the weaving now, and we're going to take our willow whip now, as this is the butt, if I haven't mentioned before, and I just call that the tail. So quarter down, and we're just going to simply push it through like so. Hold it with this hand. Got this hand here, and we're just going to bring it through, and we're just going to flick it through to us. Now this is something to consider right at the beginning, okay, is how you weave. You don't need to literally bind it. Can you see? Some people tend to get it really, really close together. It's really not necessary, and equally some people do it far too far apart. So what you can do is just eyeball it. You can see the difference where that is where I've let the willow come up slightly, and I've guided it with this thumb here, and here you can see the difference when it's really wound tightly. I would recommend that you try and you do that. Look, it doesn't matter, because if you're doing a wreath base for Christmas, it's going to be covered in greenery. If you're doing a spring wreath, for argument's sake, or a living wreath, what we tend to do is we tend to use ivy as well to create a little bit of texture. So it doesn't really matter. This is just your base. And as you do, and as you practice more, you'll find it will get easier and easier. And you know, you'd wondered what all the faff was about, really. So yeah, you just continue, and there we go. I've got 2 here now, and I'm not worrying about those at the moment because I can cut them off later, or I can simply pop them through the gap between the willows. Right, so that's 2 now, and I'm still continuing to gently manipulate it into shape. Right, the next one. So I've got 1, 2, so another quarter turn here, and we're going to do exactly the same. We're going to just push it through like that, okay? And we're going to hold it, hand through, and simply flip it to you. Now, this is where it's really important that your material is still flexible, because this one is a particularly long one, so we don't want it to snap. If it does snap, don't worry about it, or kink, should I say. Continue with it. It's only when your willow is in your primary circle that you don't want any kinks. I'm coming to this part here, and I'm simply going to go behind it, there, just bring it down. Here, this one here, can you see it sticking out there? I might bring that forward slightly. So when I come round, that will be then secured by the next one. But if it pops up again, it's not a problem. We're going to cut that off later, or we're going to, as I say, bring it down. When you pop this one, bring it forward if you want to, or just ignore it. And you can see that it's starting to build up. And then this here, now we've got some little gaps that are created, and we can pop it through. Again, I'm not going to touch that. And these here give me a really good guide as to how many willows I have put in, and also to where to start the next one. So, right, we've done 1, 2, 3, and we've got another 1, 4. I think obviously because of this one is quite big, I've done them slightly more closer together, but it's just eyeball it really, and just go with the circumference of your wreath. Okay, hand through, flick it up to me, just do this gentle thing. So here I've got my thumb here. I don't push it up too much, I just use it as a gentle guide. Holding it, again, hand through, flip it up. Just going to ignore that, bringing it through, either bring it forward. That one will go pop up again, it doesn't matter. And tighten it through. Right, let's keep manipulating it. Starting to get a really lovely shape now. Just going to do one last one before I start clipping off. I want a really good solid start before I start. Now, what you can probably find is now we've used 4, and we can start the willow by pushing the butt through the willow, like so. See that? But you'll still need to hold it down at this point, okay? Do exactly the same. I didn't clean this one, but it doesn't really matter. I can just trim it later. For the purpose of this video, I just wanted to get it done. Oh, it just feels so good. Right, if I wanted to now, could cut it really close to the edge here. You'll see why you need sharp scissors or sharp secateurs. Mine are blunt after so much use. But yeah, some sharp ones better. That's a good start. Now I will carry on building it up. But you could, if you wanted to, stop at this point if you were, for argument's sake, making a flower wreath garland for a headpiece. Obviously you would make it smaller. If you just wanted a few little dried flowers, or you can decide what thickness or diameter you would like your wreath to be. What I will say is, for those of you who do have my kit, I'd like you to use the majority of the willow that I've provided. Seasonally, it comes in all different thicknesses, so you need quite a good solid base to create and carry the weight, for argument's sake, if you're doing a Christmas wreath. If you're doing a decorative feature for the living wreaths, you need a nice thick girth because you need to put the moss on. If you're doing something for the spring wreath, you need a nice thick willow base, and then bind your other material to create a little bit of interest and structure. So I'm going to get you to carry on, and then we'll meet again when we've got a nice thick diameter. I'm probably going to make it another couple of inches. So use up all your willow if you'd like. Almost finished with the wreath base. Again, I'm going to get my secateurs, and I'm just going to tidy up all the little bits and bobs that are hanging around. Even at this late stage, things still pop out, but don't worry, you can just tuck them back in. And then just... There's a continual work in progress, continual manipulation, and then obviously you'll have your final wreath. If you are not happy and you feel like you've got too many bits and it just feels a little unstable, do just get your wire and you can just bind it all the way around the wreath, just to give it some added security and strength. If you are happy with the way that it's been woven in, you'll be amazed at how remarkably strong it is. But then again, that's an entirely personal choice as to how you feel the weave has held. And then if you're going to start a Christmas wreath, for argument's sake, you can put your wire around it and then just start binding your greenery on. Equally, if you're going to be making a moss-based wreath, you can keep your wire on, just make sure that it's really tight, and then just put your moss on and start securing it like that. If, on the other hand, you are going to start creating a bit of a more rustic style, I would say just cut it off, pop the wire away, and what you can do is you can take it now to the next dimension. If you are going to make the spring wreaths and things like that, if you're making a living wreath, I give the ivy with some ivy leaves on, because with the living wreath you will be spraying it, and so it will have a source of water and the leaves will last. For those of you who are going to be having the other material when we're going to be decorating with artificial flowers and faux flowers, you'll find that I've actually given you the ivy without the leaf. The odd leaf on it is absolutely fine because that will just dry, but it will just make it look really old and just past its best really if we leave the leaves on. And all we're going to do is we're going to find a little gap in your wreath base and do exactly the same as what you did before with the willow whips. Your ivy should be flexible. It's been given in sent in a moist bag to retain the moisture, and then simply weave it around and use all the stems that you've got. And for the birch, two ways of doing the birch really. If you've got really thick stems, you can simply cut to size and stick them in. So for argument's sake, if I had just just a few sort of really thick stems like this. Great thing is there's holes in it and you can literally just push it in the gaps between the willow, like so. And then you can have some birch sticking out. Or if you've been given long stems like this, just cut the more pliable stems. Like so, that are nice and bendy. And then again, just pop them between your willow and wind them round. You can leave it as wild or as natural as you like. This is down to personal preference. I quite like a little bit of naturalness going on here, so I like that. If you don't like it, again, you could get the wire and you can bind it down, but I think it creates a little bit of movement. So just continue going around. If you're making a more sort of interesting design where you'd like to be the wreath to be part of it. So for argument's sake, it's very popular to have heart-shaped wreaths, in the sense that you might have a decoration just on the one side. And I would recommend, if you are going to do that, like my artificial spring wreaths with the faux flowers, is choose the nicest side, cover the more sort of wonky side perhaps of the arrangement, and choose the nicest side that's going to be exposed there. So there you have it, a lovely, easy to do wreath base for you to get creative with. For those of you who have bought my wreath kit, now you have done the first part, and get ready to start your second part of your wreath kit. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I'd love to see some photos or any feedback that you can give me. A good thumbs up or like my video, subscribe, because there'll be lots more where this is coming from. You have a great day, everybody. Bye now.